Hello, this is Gerald van Was. There is a way to figure out why every word via its letters is also directing your mind a little bit, that we have to recognize certain things, that we will recognize certain things, that we will recognize elements of distinction, directions where something goes to, that it takes a little bit more time, that you have time aspects there. With longer sounds as well, you can have that as well. With short sounds for the very direct things, or where there are certain vibrations that we can hear that we say like, okay, this vibration is changing the full perspective a little bit. We have a method also for this to realize what we really recognize. For each letter they have also a numerical order. That order is the same thing. They have also a geometrical thing, elements, that associations. That's the same thing. And there are also almost mathematical associations in it, also with dimensions and so on. You can use them in different ways to recognize what we recognize actually. And there's a few difficult things in that, because we can figure out positions in space. We can have double positions or positions that move, so within time, so need a time aspect for that, the second option, with also a lot of letters. Or we have really a figuring out where do we focus upon then, because there's not much to focus upon. How shall we focus upon what we have is a third option, and I can describe all of these. But what makes it most easy in our mind is that language is a communication field, and we talk and we say something or we interpret something, and another person talks as well, or that he presents something else as well. We go towards it, we see changes, we have a communication and so on. It's a balancing out of these things. And the most easy thing for us is like, okay, let's have our starting point, go towards a different starting point and see how this relationship goes. So from my pick out to towards your suggestion is the most easy balance that we can figure out. There's a problem with that if we have words which switch position the whole time, which switch position several times. It's very easy if you just go towards something and you developed yourself and you reach the other's opinion. That would be ideal, but it doesn't work like that. You have interactions, the things come back to you, they come back differently, you have to adapt, then you take a distance again. You can do a lot of things and then you switch. It's almost like a dance, and you try to figure out what you should do. Some words are like that. That are not straightforward from me towards you. No, it goes towards, for instance, towards another place. Then I see how it is at my place. Then I see again like how is it is in a general sense. How can I interpret it is a way that is open to suggestions of their letters and of the combination of letters. Let's find out a very good example for this, that a word like border is not straightforward and it has positions everywhere. I also, before that, I didn't really show you a method how you can interpret automatically, like when it jumps from one position to another that are almost not related. I should pay attention a bit more to like, okay, how should we do that in a practical sense, because you can use this scheme. I already said a few times, yeah, in a few different orders. If the order changes, it makes it more difficult, of course, because then the word itself has no fixed point where we start from or where we go to. So we have to switch all the time. So it's almost like in the last, with the same category as it is in the last category, we have to look for what's the best way to orientate ourselves here. We lose it a little bit. You have that in the word border, for instance. And I will methodize it how it should work well. An example how it works well is, for instance, with the word which has one direction of which describes one direction, like the walk, it describes one direction towards somewhere else. And of course, and then I can go easily from me towards you. If I would design, for instance, the W, which I take out of the system, then I'm following up in my learning process to see what I should follow up all the changes in the diagonal sense and see, like, okay, how can I adapt to it? The other elements, the A, the L, and the K, they are positioned in a different sense, so you cannot use the positions just like that perfectly, because then you have to jump also from top W to A to L to K, which is not too far away, it's not too complicated, but we still have to deal with the order of letters. And the order of letters, okay, for now I just have all the letters here shown to you, but the order of letters says I have to start in W. So let's start in W and use the background orientations that we have. In the first category we have horizontal, vertical and diagonal as, let's say, lines in the background. That doesn't change anything, but it's like when we continue the positions, we take these positions into another context, it continues with the letter A always in a horizontal sense. That means, horizontal sense, I continue to keep it on the same level the whole time. I keep it on the ground the whole time. And that's lying in the background. So if I have to move up the letter A, and that can make it more methodical, I use this horizontal line, so that, because that's my awareness. What's my letter A? It's not just a position, it can be any position. And if I make a position close to me, which is the most logical thing, if I have to use it, if I have to move it up to another place, I think it's best that you even keep the same level. A as well, if A and A keeps itself on the same frequency, the low frequency, the basic frequency, so I can move it up there. So that's helping too. The L is in the vertical sense, so it will have the growing up of elements into the vertical sense. That's what I will do. I will have the W first, then the A, and then the L, and the K actually can indeed focus upon, I put it on the other side of my focus before me. The L is not pronounced, so I can have it a bit lighter, so I use it more as a tool to help me. Where shall I go to? L, what does L mean? It says the form changes. I adapt to a form and a change into a vertical sense. K says I will find its diagonal position, try to find its diagonal position to where I'm going to. It's not immediately visible, so I need, of course, these helping tools like L. It can help me to say, okay, I can pinpoint it into which direction to go. Together I have the walk that you can make a sense of it. So the walk happens in the vocals. The vocals usually are more like, what's the localization? How can I figure out the space in which it is happening? The space is on the ground. I follow the ground. I have the A, which follows the changes and movements and adaptations, trying to figure out how I should behave, to which direction I should behave, is the W, followed up by A into a horizontal sense, into a grounding sense, the L changing shape, changing my shape, changing my material, changing towards material into the vertical sense, and then the diagonal move is known. Then I know in which diagonal move I move. That's what you can make from it, so you can also understand it with this grounding level as well. And then you say, okay, let's find the combination of W, A, L, and K. I hope that was clear enough. It is an example that also says adapt to the right order and see that you have all of its combinations of letters into one go. That I have the unknown aspect in K it is helpful that where shall I move my material to? I move it upward towards that position where the change is needed, of course, as well at the same time, where I can adapt to it, where my adaptation is ready to go to. Another example is, of course, because I have to go to the word border. It's also something which normally switch also from here to here, there. So if you see the order, it doesn't match immediately. So let's have a more simple word first, and the word that is more simple is not border but box, because that's really with framed ending, and that one is a very good example to see like how shall we interpret it easily, and how shall we interpret it then by what we already know here by the word box. B, what's the position of B? It's in the first category. It is about I follow up changes in the form, and the changes in the form are moving forward, but becoming bigger as well, and that's my conclusion. It becomes somewhere where it is enhanced, and I follow up what is enhanced. The X is another kind of enhancement which is becoming unpredictable, hence the red color. B is then the growing color, so an advancement. The X is like it, you have the diagonal sense which is becoming too much. You have to 3 points the right directing. You see changes. The changes are going are leaving space. They are leaving the focus upon a one-centered position, and they leave it. It's like it's going beyond the one-centered position. It's already going beyond its limits, beyond its borders. That's the letter X. So in total, let's have them at the right positions. And the most easy thing for me always in the logic, for our logic, is I go from me, my pick out of positions, and you with your suggestions of what you have to have different. The B is in that place, the O is in that place, and the X is in that place. Solely as positions, you know what we're dealing with. But now the combinations is a bit more tricky. But I can understand it by understanding what box means, because this B is really touching at the borders, trying to breach it at that point. The O compared to B is almost like a step back then actually, so it goes towards the other position, the position at the border. The O, that's the step back, goes indeed as a step back to look at what shall I do, what's the change there, and in a way it also said what's the change there at the border, what do I have to pay attention to there at the border. It's also about a border, B and O at the border, but it ends with X, and X is really the limit of the full frame that I have, the frame of the physical space that you have there has been reached, and E also in combination with the B breached. It's trying to look up, okay, let's see until where I can breach the box, reach the box, and go towards the box, so that I should not cross it, or that I should cross it. Boxing as a sport is also this kind of idea, okay, that it's within a box, and we try to go beyond it, cross it actually, because we have these differences that we see, and we try to cross it, but it's still at the same time contained within that box. But that idea of making a step back to look at what I should do there at the border indeed is also fitting with the word border. If you would really have the B there and then have the O come over, we're still not there, and then come over to the next position until you have a right order. It becomes complicated. Let's have really the order of the positions in respect to each other, keep them there instead of making the puzzle even more difficult, which I tried before, but I think that it's not the best suggestion, then again, to do so too much. Just look at the elements that we have and how they are related. And they are related on several levels, of course. You have the level of the physicality in space, the B, the border. The O is about timing, so how shall I time myself towards that border? So you can have them in position to each other. But the framing, as it always is, like I say, okay, where shall I focus upon is important. The next letter, the R, is about framing. And maybe a good way to position the letter R, which is also there. I always use this background of this continuity of the wave of activity in the background, almost symbolically, and I made a connection to the point where I need it. Is still a bit vague as an order. The purpose of actually doing that, of making the connection, is making the connection to what works there, and what works there within a frame. Again, this framing will still be important. What am I looking at? I'm looking at the border. So let's have these frames of O and B to it as well, so to make it even more clear. And the O frame is seen from my picking out of interpretations. It's breaching my border, so that's the point where it breaches my own border. It's the same thing as the other, breaching around the border, and it's the same in the physicality, breaching. But the B is at the breaching of the border is really at the border. So I have that border focus, which is my selective frame is focusing upon that part actually. So let's look at that border within that limited frame. And in a way, the R will always say like, okay, here it works within this frame. It works. It's at that border. It also has a certain range. So let's find out where the range is, where my connection will be able to connect. And okay, I make within that board actually, because here I have also the board. I will make a selection to go towards it with the letter D. We have the board exists in English as well with the letter A to it, where I have a focus upon a thing that I have with a middle point as well, that I have my board there as well. But in Dutch the word board also exists without the A. It still has that focus of that round circle that you there, and the D. What does the D means? I change something I move something in space where I can see a difference somewhere. The bore itself is that vibration inwardly as well from the border actually. So I breach a little bit that border in that bore element. But the D focuses more about what differences, with the next letter, what differences do I have in space? The moving of space it can be, the moving of main focus can be, but it's always about moving a certain space. And that's actually quite funny, because when I have that wave penetrating, even with the A to it is now even more towards the center, I have these different D with differences, that I have a different starting space and a different middle space with the A to it as well as board. Board as a Dutch word without the A means plate, and this also still fits with these vibrations from towards within with that own environment in it that I can fill up if I really want to, as well, where I can connect to, again, this idea of connection. But it's about border. So where do I look into the R will find its frame, actually, in which the vibrations and the movement and every movement that I do in it can apply to it. Any movements towards the plate here as well, I can do that within that frame. As I have to have the frame in that case as well. So here's the frame. Here's my frame of the plate. And the border makes it a little bit more difficult. The A is, but within that D region of where the changes, where I can see the changes, what is really the difference? The A shows the difference, the highlighting points, the differences. And with another R, it's almost like I have the 2 dimensions in R, I have another R or connection point towards that limited frame again, that limited frame between the differences that you can see in the plate, the border. That's the border of the board at that place, where you with the E you can read it in the theory as well. A is about try to find out what changes that you have. Focus upon that part. What change do I have within that frame of where the space is different? I see also a part where there is a change within that limits. I can make from there onwards. I can make the connections. I see these differences. Something like that. I mean, that's more or less the description of border. It's a bit more difficult than the Dutch word I had before as rand, but it gives you also an idea how to work with letters, how to focus upon letters, how to also to jump from one placement to another placement. We deal with that. We can deal with that. It's a possibility that we can make a logic with that as well, and that's how it automatically goes as well. So, like I said, some words are almost like a dance in the space and time, where we sometimes take a step back, and sometimes we go forward, and sometimes we take something in it and we learn something, and we have a little bit more complexity than just okay, I have an opinion and I throw it towards you and you have to take it or leave it. Language and words does not work like that. There's an intercommunications. These intercommunications are a bit more complex. With the word border, it's already a bit complex. It's also reaching its borders of possibilities. Once you start to work with it, you will also have the difficulties of the word. Even if you make mistakes sometimes, you will meet the difficulties of what you have to deal with it. You're at the border of your system. You're at the border of how things work. All these things will also happen automatically once you try to play with it. Don't be too serious, but also don't take it too serious if you have a certain result as well. Try to learn with it if you try to experience with it before. At least I hope these videos are helpful to discover how letters in combinations work, how they direct ourselves, and how they also fit to all the words. Sooner or later I will make a different version of the same thing from a totally different angle, and it will fit with the same content. It will still fit with the same content after all. Okay, thanks again for watching. Bye.